Food, where I share my passions for making food, eating food, as well as traveling the world to discover and eat even more delicious food. Today we are going to be making one of my very favorite autumn desserts. It is pumpkin bread. So pumpkin bread is something that I've been making pretty much since college. One of my dormitory resident advisors used to make these massive batches of pumpkin bread pretty much every October to indicate that autumn is here, we want to get together, we want to enjoy delicious baked goods together. So the recipe that we're going to be using today is a little bit of a riff off of what he used to make. I made a few little tweaks, and so we're going to be going through how to make pumpkin bread so that you can also learn to make it and see how simple and delicious this quick bread can be. Pumpkin bread is a really great bread to start out with when you are just figuring out that you want to do baking but you're not quite sure where to start. It's a really quick and easy bread to make because it's really just dumping a bunch of ingredients into a bowl, mixing it up, and baking it for about an hour. So really the majority of the work is going to be done in the oven. That's really the rest time when you can kind of relax, chill out, and the oven does all the work for you. And it's just such a nice treat to share during the autumn season with friends and family. So we are going to get started right now. Key ingredient here is to have pumpkin. So you're going to need a 15-ounce can of canned pumpkin. I am using the Trader Joe's brand organic canned pumpkin. We're also going to need some white sugar, brown sugar, so 1 cup of white sugar, 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Make sure that it's not too packed, otherwise your bread might be a bit too sweet. Then of course we've also got eggs, we've got 3 of them, about a teaspoon of vanilla, 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose white flour. For our fat, in addition to the eggs, we're gonna use 1/2 cup of coconut oil. So the reason that I like to use coconut oil in quick breads is that because of the fact that coconut oil is solid at room temperature, what that ends up meaning is that in baked goods, whatever it is that you're making is gonna stay super moist at room temperature, which means that your breads will not dry out after 3 days. So that's really where coconut oil is really, really great. We're gonna end with our spices, baking soda, baking powder, and the spices that I'm gonna use today that I really love. So we're gonna have about 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm actually using my Mexican cinnamon, my canela. We're also gonna have about 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, as well as 2 to 3 pinches of cloves, depending on how strongly spiced you want your bread. And that's really it. So we're gonna get started by combining all of these ingredients together, add it to our loaf pan, and then we're gonna get baking. One other thing to note here is that this is going to be a very jam-packed pumpkin bread. When I say that, what I mean is typically most recipes that use an entire can of pumpkin bread will yield 2 loaves. We're actually only going to be making 1 loaf. We really want as much pumpkin-y flavor as we can get out of this pumpkin bread. So to maximize that, we're condensing all of this into a single loaf, which means that you really want to be careful about what type of loaf pan you're using. So my loaf pan on the bottom is about 8 inches by 4, but then on the top it is 9.25 by 5.25 inches. So the capacity total of this is going to be about 6 cups. So make sure that with the loaf pan that you're using that it can hold at minimum 6 cups of liquid. Then you also want to think about how it's going to rise. So just make sure that you're using an adequately sized loaf pan for this. So to get started, I'm gonna mix together all of our wet ingredients. So that's gonna be the pumpkin, the 2 sugars, the eggs, as well as the vanilla extract and the coconut oil. So I'm just gonna dump all of these into the same bowl. Just get that in. And I'm just gonna mix that up. Ooh, you can already start smelling the booziness of the vanilla mixing in with the sugars. It's already smelling quite delightful. Now that we've got all of the wet ingredients combined, we are also going to do the same but with the dry ingredients. So I'm going to dump in the baking soda, baking powder, as well as the spices into the flour mix. So there's that. And then we're going to mix that together. And then now we're going to dump in the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients and fold them gently in. I'm going to take some of this dry ingredient and then add it into the pumpkin wet mixture. And gradually fold this gently in. You want to make sure that you are not over mixing because you'll be working up the gluten in the flour, which will result in a tough bread. This looks pretty well incorporated to me. No longer see any of those flour streaks. So I'm just gonna add all of this batter into the tin. Smells really, really good right now. You can smell all the spice just kind of filling the air, especially since the temperature in the apartment is currently going up because I've just turned on the oven and preheated it to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. All of the batter came together really quickly. We have now added all of the batter and smoothed out the top. And lastly, to finish the top of the loaf, we are going to add in some cinnamon sugar just to add a crunchy, spicy element to the top, and of course add a little bit of extra sweetness every time you bite into the top of the loaf. So I'm just gonna sprinkle this lightly on top. Make sure it's nice and even. So that wraps up making the pumpkin bread batter. We've already added the cinnamon sugar to create that crusty top. And now we're gonna add this into the oven. I've already preheated the oven for 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna put it into the oven and leave it in there for anywhere from 65 to 75 minutes. So I'm gonna add this into the oven and I will see you in about 65 minutes. The pumpkin bread is ready. We have let this loaf cool down within the loaf tin. And then now what we're gonna do is loosen it up with a plastic knife. It's a little hack that I actually learned from Cooks Illustrated. So if you use a plastic knife to loosen the edges of the loaf, it prevents you from accidentally scratching your loaf tin. So prolongs the life of your loaf tin, which is always important if you like to bake. So I have loosened this up with this plastic knife, and then we are going to flip it over into a dish so that we can start slicing it and serving it to eat. So I have flipped it over, and then now I'm just gonna kind of shake it just a little bit just to loosen it. So it looks like it's come out nice and clean, and now I just want to flip it over again so that it's right side up. Just gonna go like that. Ooh, it's very hefty. You can tell that it's just weighed down by all of that amazing pumpkin from the can. This is what the beauty looks like once it's been removed from the loaf tin. You can see that it's got this nice little kind of crust and lid on the top because of that brown sugar that we added. This piece kind of came up just a little bit while rising in the oven, but it's really gorgeously colored because of the pumpkin and because of all of those spices that we added. I'm gonna cut it right down the center just to see that it's fully well baked, that it's cooked all the way through, and to see how moist it is on the inside. So just gonna take a dive and then cut here. Take a look at the innards. And there we have it. Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous orangey color. Ooh, I love this. Smells amazing. My whole apartment smells like really warm, delicious autumn spices right now. I'm just gonna nice, healthy slice here. There you go. So there we've got 2 slices and the other parts of the loaf. So I'm really excited with how this loaf turned out. It's super moist. The crumb is just so soft and delicate. And it's definitely cooked all the way through, as we can see. I just love this orange color, this orangey autumn color that just screams of fall foliage. So I'm gonna take a bite of one of these loaf slices that I just cut. I'm gonna take a piece that is off the top so that we can get some of that delicious cinnamon sugar that we sprinkled to create that lid. So here goes. Wish you were here to taste this. Oh Oh my gosh. This is definitely phenomenal. So it's definitely crunchy on the top because of that cinnamon sugar that we sprinkled at the very end. It's so insanely moist. And you can just feel all of those spices, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the ginger, the clove, just kind of singing as you start sinking your teeth into the loaf slice. It's perfectly sweetened. I definitely wouldn't have added more sugar or less sugar. I think the sugar level was just right. This is so good. I'm gonna have another piece. This is delicious. Perfectly baked. 65 minutes. This is insanely good. So I really hope that this vlog inspired you to make some pumpkin bread this season and make some holiday treats. Pumpkin bread is just so easy, it's so quick. It really doesn't take very much time or effort. This pumpkin bread just screams autumn in a loaf or in a bite. I mean, come on, just look at this color. Ugh, so gorgeous. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. I would love to hear your comments down below. And I would really love it if you would subscribe if you like my content. And I hope to see you the next time. See you later. Bye.